Little Ted Nugent. Woof, man, I'll tell you what, that'll give you a like get up and go. Let's do it. So yeah, saw him, the wild man himself. Super Jam 1976. Great concerts. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this fabulous experience, this journey. And we take one each and every day, most days at this time. And thank you for being on board. Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. If you believe it, it has huge, huge residual benefits. So, anyway, yeah. Walk it like you talk it, right? So, everyone, how are you? Everyone in the chat room, thank you for answering the question that I put in there. Do you believe humans are being attacked by invisible beings? Mm. Cheers, everyone. Well, that's just so savory. Lost in Space, how you doing? Paul, Joe, Street Mom, how you doing, darling? Doug and DC, Shirley, what's up, Lost in Space? Lori, hello, Lauren, how are you? How are things going for you? You back in the US? I think you are, right? King, good to see you. Rick, what's up? Brother, good to see you. Thank you for everything. There is just, I tell you, I don't know. You think it's allergies, but man, like what the heck? But anyway. Go, all the way from Croatia. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Kaya, thank you. How's you and Paul? Janie, good to see you. Voiceover, good to see you, darling. Linda Espinoza, how are you? Um, Doug and open-minded. Anyway, a lot of people, thank you. I was reading some of the comments prior. It's an important question. It really is. I mean, if if we're being influenced, attacked, coerced, what does that mean? It's, I mean, how do you fight an invisible enemy? Think about it. How would you go about rectifying it? I was in a religion for 50 years. And depending on what flavor of that religion that you're in, different beliefs, different points of view. What I found was that you had, much like in everything else, politics, you had the left, you had the right. And particularly if you come out of the Pentecostal side of the equation, many of us here have, um, they teach a different New Testament than what other Christians, let's say, for instance, if you're a Catholic or a Baptist, or Pentecostals and associated branches to that, uh, the invisible was very real. And, you're taught that you can tell by how it feels. Um, you're taught to look at the fruit of a situation. And then if you were the side that where I come out of, and the 12 gifts of the Holy Spirit, wow, those are pretty powerful. And if you look at them individually, you can see where they were pulled from occult or pagan beliefs. But nevertheless, I was taught I had the gift of tongues, interpretation, the gift of prophecy, the gift of healing. And if you have the gift of discernment, then you have the supernatural ability to see into the spirit realm. And manifestation of that gift is if, for instance, if you see an angel, of which even here sitting today, I don't know what else you'd call it. Um, it was there. And the thing about it was that there were other people in the congregation, of which was about 1,000. They saw the same thing I saw. So, but not everybody else did. So there you go. So this is not for me strange, but the implications in if what is happening is true, then you see my problem I have in this equation because the math isn't working out. So if there's this war taking place, to what end? Now, I was taught that the end would be that everyone would follow one particular way, think only one particular way, and depending on which side of the coin you were, you would either inherit this earth or you would inherit the heaven part of the equation. And supposedly within that is the fulfillment of perfectness. The only problem is that when you begin to dissect the hypothesis on that, well, all right, so if they're invisible beings, they're apparently supernatural, they can really impact us physically, emotionally, spiritually. Um, they seem to be at odds with their own kind. And that's what the story says. And as a result of this, they somehow feel compelled to be involved in human affairs. Hmm. Like what? They don't have enough of their own? They got a war. So what does that make us? Victim? Prey? What? Because we are at a strategically disadvantage in fighting invisible supernatural beings. I think it could be well said and agreed that the average human being is very much aware of these invisible beings, but really think that they're powerless in dealing with them. Now, that's a problem for me, is that if our species feel that we are powerless in dealing with these invisible supernatural beings, then it's game over. I mean, what the hell? What we're going to see is totalitarian dictatorships, oligarchs taking over, World War III, billions of humans beings going to be wiped out, sacrificed on this so-called celestial fucking altar, and the human blood is going to flow, and apparently nobody else's blood is going to flow, just our kind. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And the problem is, even from the religion that I walked away with, it's powerless. Oh, people give me the crap about Jesus and in Jesus' name. That's bullshit. Number one, the name is bullshit. It's not if such an individual did live, it was not its name. And if you can't quote the person, the dignitary, the whatever you want to call it, God, by the name it called itself, even through translations of English, something's up. But you're taught that there is this name that has this weapon, as in the movie Dune. Paul Atreides had the name when he chose his name, it was the name of death. The name alone would bring death, power. But even that is so perverted, you can't even rely upon that because you got one side that say, well, these things don't exist. God takes care of that. Got the other side that says, no, man, it's a bad show. And in fact, I was brought up in the belief that these things called demons, it I remember a sermon John Hagee preached, and he was talking on this subject of demons. And it's interesting. You learn a lot if you can take the level down and just listen to the information. Because in much of what he said, I have discovered in reading on the other side is pretty true. I mean, it lines up. Well, anyway, his point was that the lesson is that if this New Testament thing is true, then you're supposed to derive from that and add that to your knowledge, which will then, by you using that knowledge, becomes wisdom. So, as John Hagee said, the fact is, if you read in the Gospel of Mark, it appears that humans are very susceptible to being demon possessed, demon influenced. And this shows up in a number of ways. It shows up in physical ailments, diseases. Disease, in its root word, means divided peace. They're tormentors. That's what they're here for. They're tormentors of humankind, and they apparently run very freely. Read the book. The one gospel is the weirdest one of all because it deals primarily with demons. So, but the thing was, I never, and it's not taught, I never knew the other side. I mean, to me, a demon was a demon. Cast him out myself. What does that say? Well, it says if a human can cast out a demon, then what the hell's going on here? I mean, it's like if a schizophrenic decides to commit suicide, that's a hostage situation, right? And that's what we got going on here. We seem to be both perpetrator and victim. That's weird. But yeah, this can be influenced by invisible beings that somehow can permeate the corporeal of matter and merge into a consciousness with its host. That's some serious shit, man. I don't care what you're saying. That's some serious stuff. And if it can so readily happen, oh, it gets even better than that. So the human soul, the human spirit, it has no boundaries. It has no limit. Because we're told that a human can have tens of thousands of demons living, sharing the consciousness, occupying the body. That's some pretty serious stuff. How do you rationalize that? But that's what's written. And then, even stranger is that you've got this thing where, all right, they can jump from a human into an animal. I mean, what do you do with that? So we're still talking about this whole thing in invisible beings. In this case, the angels and the demons. Now, you read this stuff, and then this becomes ingrained into your thinking, into your psyche. So you're well conditioned as a soldier, because a soldier is only good if the soldier complies to orders, ideologies. ways of thinking. That's a good soldier because they won't think for themselves. They're not supposed to. The problem is that when you wake up as Neo did from the machine, now you're finding yourself in some deep stuff. Because again, everything that you have learned or was taught, is in fact has foundations of truth within it. Now that carries over. And so you start reading about these beings. I mean, you start reading their names. You start reading what it takes to invoke them. I mean, that's just completely weird. But as you dig deeper into these invisible beings, you find out that it's complex. You know, it's not chaos. It appears to be very disciplined, very structured in this world of these invisible beings. And then it seems like there's one over here and there's one over here. But here's the whole problem. And we get into it. We'll continue to read about Asmodee. I can tell you when you read it, you're going to find out why most people would never do it, never invoke such a creature. But apparently doesn't really matter. He and many others like him are here. They exist here. And again, they seem to be damn interested in what we do. They appear that they can actually slip into a person's consciousness, and that person becomes very agreeable to this. But here's the big problem to all of this. You see, what we consider today, modern day Christianity, modern day, well, let's just, encapsulate the Abrahamic belief systems. You set that over there, you got that bucket, and then you've got this other bucket now, and it's a modern phenomenon. Actually, within the last couple hundred years, you have this whole thing of Satanism. Satanism is a modern day religion. It did not exist 500 years ago, didn't exist a couple hundred years ago. It is, though, today a legitimate belief system. So you got that bucket. And then you got this other bucket of those of us who are looking at this and say, well, that's fine, but it sucks. I mean, I was awakened this morning with a conversation from the ether, and it's interesting because the question was asked to me, you know this knowledge, why don't you use it? And I retorted back, because it woke me up, that nothing that they can offer me. And there's nothing that any of these invisible supernatural beings that, quite frankly, interest me. I mean, I study them, and for good reason. I mean, if you're truly an observer, then you have to have an equal share of knowledge on both sides. Otherwise, you're unbalanced. And, I read about them. I see what they can do for humans. Okay. But that doesn't interest me. What, to make me rich? Seriously? I can't take it with me, so what is it value? What is its worth? To give me to heighten my abilities to a supernatural point, I'll be there anyway. Not something I'm really particularly interested in. I really don't care to know the future. I'm still trying to figure out the present. So, okay. I mean, when you spend enough days on this planet, you realize that there is now very real, because the human brain's interesting. The human brain, each of us individually think that, we're invincible. Everybody else dies, but we don't. And once you can break that, you begin to understand, well, so what is it that a demon could offer me? What is it that an angel could offer me? Nothing really. I mean, I've lived my life. That's why there is no judgment for me. I live my life the way I was meant to live my life. People say, well, that's why you have rules and what have you, because of the sin. I've never sinned. Never have. And quite frankly, you can't judge me by a set of rules or perception. If that's what you're going to do, then you should have invented an automaton. If I truly am an omnipresent being, I am a mortal that has immortality because I exchanged my immortality for the experience of mortality. That makes me a god. And what God's going to judge me? For what? And so, if in fact I, as a so-called sentient being, can command and control, bind and loose these spirits, now I got to ask myself, well, why? When I have read, just to be very candid, it seems to be a real pain in the ass to deal with them. Either side. You got rules over here, and then you got rules over here. Nah, I had enough of that on the one side. Tried a little bit over on the other side. Nah, because again, it's my time, not theirs. It's my time. My time is worth more than 1,000,000,000,000 demons or angels combined. My time is more valuable than any archdemon, archangel. It's my time. And I'm the God of my time. And if I have to spend my time trying to, in order to get their attention for their time to my time, nah. Well, if they want to come and visit, hey, they want to be civil about it, make sure that they've read Miss Manners and, understand, got a problem with it. I'll apparently interact with them on the other side anyway. So, again, coming into us, humans, humanity, being controlled and influenced by invisible supernatural beings. They once said that, the most dangerous thing to an opponent is when your opponent has knowledge of you, how you think, how you operate. And in this case, dealing with demons, I sit back and I'm going, well, if you follow the narrative, they're a recent creation. Now think about it. So, who was here first? Humans or demons? Don't be so quick to answer that because you might be surprised. It appears that we were first. By everything that you can put together, we were here first. They seem to be a late addition to the story. Now, if you take that perspective, then you really got to ask yourself, then what really is going on here? Maybe we created them. Maybe we created this whole reality of their existence. Because before us, they didn't exist. You want to argue the case? I'd love to see it. But all the evidence, but you study the Bible, you study the Quran, you study the Hindu Vedic, you study all of this. We were here first in both realms. Now, people would argue and say, but wait a minute. You had the fall of the angels. Yeah, but you know what no one has ever picked up in that verse in Revelation? It says that Satan was thrown in the form of a dragon and was thrown to earth. We were already here. Kind of changes things. Because another metaphor would be is that was the breach between the two realms. Otherwise, why was it thrown here to earth? And then that directly implies that these creatures are not from outer space. No, they're from a part of space of earth that we would call the firmament, the realm that is in between the realms. And they're earthbound, maybe more than what we are. I mean, I'm just going by what I was taught for 50 years and never looked at it in that direction, never saw it in those particular lenses before. But it certainly appears that we may have been here first. So then what does that make us to these invisible supernatural beings that we call gods, lords, angels, demons, angelics, demonics? I mean, pick and choose. It's interesting because if we were here first, well, think about that. So is this battle for control? Got nothing to do with heaven or earth. No, not got nothing to do with heaven and hell. But maybe they're trying to usurp, and I'm talking on both sides here, what we were naturally created with. I mean, because to what end? I mean, if you go by the current narrative, and where I'm at, if you listen to any type of politics, you got, these far right that have what they call the Christian conservatives, and you got the far lefts, and you're looking at this and you're going, oh crap. I mean, is there no escape from this? But anyway, so what if it is that way? It changes the whole narrative on occultism, religion, because it seems that we are the center of these beings' existence. I can't read or find anything to what they're really doing on the other side. Everything that I'm reading has a correlation in relation to structures of governments and forms of authoritative dominance over other humans. And you think about that, if that is the model, wow, I mean, what is that really saying? I mean, are they looking for dominance in this realm? Because then they could truly rule over us? And I don't care if you're what belief system you are, whatever it is, if it's a religion, it's dominating you. It ain't you out there being able to walk in the sunshine and walk across the field smoking a joint. Ain't going to happen. That's not the narrative. And you look at the requirements. Asmodeus, I'm reading this thing and I'm going, huh, I've read the same thing in the book of Leviticus. Ain't this some shit? You know, and again, it's a modern day new religion because these beings of which I've spent the last half hour talking about, then the fact that we even discuss them, the fact that the vast majority of humanity knows of them, don't care what culture you come from, what language, what part of the world, it's all there. It's the same stamp. And again, take the point of view that we were here first. So you read about these archdemons, and it's just like the humans, monarchies. You have kingdoms, you know, all the way down to communities. It sounds a lot like Earth. Sounds a lot like what man does. Or is man copying them? I don't think so. Because if we were here first, then they're merely emulating us. Because it seems their powers, if you read that of their powers, and we have, reading on the 72 angels of Solomon, why would an angel need a fortune telling ability? Why would an angel or a demon need the ability to find treasure, to be rich? Why would a demon or an angel need the power of healing? I mean, where are they going to use it at? I mean, is that implying that this other side may be more real than this side? But nevertheless, why do they need those things? Seems like they would only be here. I'm just thinking out loud. But it's true. This is why we gather to discuss these things. And if you start examining this, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you know, for 2,000 years, the world has had this expectation, but it's been bloody. Getting to what end? Well, if you look at it, all religions, their whole goal is to convert the whole world. Well, see, in my book, that's communism, Marxism, fascism, nationalism. Fuck that. I don't want that. That's the problem with all religions. That's their end. That sucks. I don't like it. All right. So what's the alternative? Again, you look at this and you're going, well, it seems like either we're being forced into a direction, and that direction doesn't look good for humanity. I don't see people out. You listen to the politicians. Hell, listen to the preachers, the religious leaders, and what have you. It's all war. No love. Now that's unbalanced. And so that tells me, well, what's going on here? What's the influence that's driving this? Because something's driving it. Is it something celestial? Is it something cosmic? I mean, what's happening to our species? Because the reports all over the world are saying that the paranormal experiences are off the charts. Everywhere there is an increase in paranormal activity. We had ours just the other night. So we're getting back to this war, this thing, this influence of these, invisible, supernatural. Even the lowest demon would be supernatural beings. And apparently, they have a really perverse view of what they are, how they see themselves. I mean, come on, folks. You walk into, um, trying to give an idea. Let's say you're walking into a convention and all of a sudden you see the weirdest bunch of people you're going, I got nothing in common with these people. It's kind of like that. I mean, where did they come up with these weird ideas, half animal, half human, half whatever the hell you want to call it? And I'm having this conversation this morning. Like I said, I was awakened, and I'm thinking about this because we're deep into a lot of. Someone wrote me and said, "Man, you got brass balls." Not really. It's out there. It's just that we're looking at it from a different perspective. But in any case, that you have the weirdest looking beings. I mean, if that is true, wow. I mean, they have a whole different base of reality than we do. We are definitely either on the menu or we're the entree, one of the two, because this don't look good for us. And again, is this how they were created? How were they created? Never tells us how they were created. We just hear the story about this one called Satan, or is it Lucifer? Well, we don't know, because now in modern day, they're all the same, but they're separate. But they don't think, because people don't see them as separate, they see them as basically an amalgamation of both. Not so. But nevertheless, so how did they get here? We're infested with them. We're infested with these angels. I mean, they're the same thing. Like, and how does that work? And again, why are they here? I mean, the evidence again would dictate that we were here first. Show me in the Bible where it says God created the angels before man. You ain't going to find it in the book of Genesis. So when did they come into play? And I got further evidence. I can go into the book of Proverbs where wisdom, which is female, the divine feminine, it says that she was his daily delight, that she sat at the foot of him and expounded wisdom unto him. What the hell is that about? Nothing about angels or demons. It was him or it, and then it was us. So again, looking in the chat room over there, enjoying the conversation, I hope, but it's time for the deep thinking, because let's carry this out, all right? So the whole story of Lucifer, and to me, it would be, again, I have expressed this publicly many times. If there was one supernatural being I would love to have a dinner, sit down with, maybe even do an interview, it would be Lucifer. Has to be a magnificent being. Yeah. even if you live. And which brings us to this simple point. So we had the beginning, then, it was earth, you know, tapestry of heaven, and then there was the preparation for earth, and then there was us. Okay. And the thing about it is, in that story, nothing was imperfect, not even the male female. Said he created them both, male and female, called them Adam. You know what happened to them? By all evidence, the Earth was hit by a comet or an asteroid and had to start over again. And apparently, the first guy left and another guy come back in. Because here's the interesting thing. Everything with this second one, this invisible being, supernatural, everything goes wrong with it. Everything it does turns out bad. Mistake after mistake. Which brings back then to the central thought of, if Lucifer existed, it says that he was created in perfection. He was perfect in all his ways. Okay? I can dig that. Never experienced that, but I can dig it. I can see it. Now, it has always been the great mystery for me is, how does an imperfect being suddenly see imperfection? Doesn't make sense. But the being that was perfect in all his ways is now imperfect because he pointed out the imperfectness. Okay. And for that, he's been demonized ever since the existence of his name came forth. Now, the thing is, with these invisible beings, because we spent the great time dealing on demons and didn't even get to the material I wanted to get to, but that's all right. We're going to continue on this way. So let's get back to Lucifer. Now, it's interesting because this is a being that was perfect, yet it became imperfect. Okay. And now it's forever associated, as God's enemy. Okay. Well, I challenge anyone in here. You see, that when we study on the demonology, a lot of this you have to understand it's 19th century, many cases 20th century injection of ideas and thoughts that really have very little to do with any reality at all. Because these beings, these demons, have been storied by the writers to have a certain type of personality and personification. But I'm not dealing with those things. I want to get back to dealing with Lucifer. Now, if the being exists at all, because we know Jerome put that in and we've discussed that. But nevertheless, thought forms do exist. I'm a thought form. You're a thought form. We're all a thought form, So, and I got up really early. I mean, when I was awakened on this, I said, hell, I ain't going back to sleep. And so I'm in here in my office, and here's an odd thing. I cannot find anything imperfect that Lucifer has put together. Now, the question that needs to be asked, can Lucifer create? it would appear he can't, or she can. Probably more of a she than it is he. I mean, if we can, surely Lucifer can. And here's something weird. I don't find anyone rebelling against Lucifer. No one. No demon, no angel. Humans, but most humans have no idea who or what she is. And it appears to me that if you're going to look at kingdoms, then what's going on? So is it the demons that are really influence, or is it another side who is standing in the background, not wanting to be known at all? And I just have to lay it out there for the table, because the evidence is the evidence. This thing called Christianity has been a blight upon humanity. How many wars have been fought in the name of God, Jesus, the cross? They have so many that have died because of that cross. I can't find anyone fighting Lucifer. People say, no, but we're fighting his effects. Really? Because the strange thing is, it seems like in these wars, there's a certain group that profits no matter what. And there's no accountability. Why? Well, because we're fighting for God. We're fighting for good. But the problem is, I don't see any good. I hear it talked a lot about, but very little evidence of it at all. And then I got this whole being, this perfect being. That's what it says in their own book. Now they're saying he looked upon himself, and then that was where sin was at. Okay, that's pretty thin. It's like the Colorado Supreme Court, but anyway. But it didn't say that he became imperfect. He said he was found lacking. So I have a simple question. If Lucifer can create, because apparently the angels can, they came down here and coitused all of our women. And then when they didn't have enough of the women, they went for the animals. Dirty, filthy animals. But anyway, seems like they got sex all over. In fact, when we read, and we'll probably get into it tomorrow, Asmodeus and his grimoire, it is about sex. Why? Because sex is some of the most powerful creation force. Humans don't gather it. They're except for the moment of the climax, they're not thinking what's really going on here. And if any human, any magician, any witch, sorcerer gets a hold of that and understands how to capture that, you're a god. Well, that's what we were told all along, but getting back to Lucifer again. So if Lucifer saw imperfection with this God of the Bible, and let's say he can or she can create, I think it's she. Well, would she not create something that would have been better? She saw the fault, and I know they have the masculine, but for this conversation, we're going to focus on the feminine. I think she would. And maybe that's the greatest secret of humanity. No one writes. They talk about hell, but that's a creation of one individual. And, these leeches, they leached onto that, and release that upon the ignorant population. And now we got the picture of hell. That doesn't exist. And again, if this creature is a creature of pride, Lucifer, no way in hell is he going to accept his rejects. Hell no. But it's still got to be thinking now, because I mean, we read all kinds of material here. And the thing about it is with Lucifer, the modern day interpretation, and now you could call it an ideology. I don't believe it's so much a religion. And even it is, I think it's still in the process of formulating. Anton LaVey, he was not writing about Lucifer, he was writing about Satan. And we know about Satan. We know that Satan doesn't exist other than the fact that we're all Satans. If you've ever accused anyone, including yourself, you're a Satan. Now, ain't that special? But anyway, so very little is actually written about this being of light. Hear me out. I was awakened with this. And maybe the reason why very little is written about, because I don't believe any human has actually maybe very few have ever been allowed to see this place, much less know about it. There's very little written about this. And I am saying, in the realm of all possibilities, then the possibility has to exist that if Lucifer did exist, then Lucifer would be creating a reality, a kingdom so far superior to the one that we have been taught and believed is awaiting, which it is nothing more than a prison. One thought, one direction, one command. But very, very little is written about the potentiality, the possibility of a kingdom, of a realm, of a dimension that would have been created in something that we can barely comprehend. You first have to apprehend the possibility of the thought and then start comprehending it and all of its implications. And what if the demons are actually created by this so-called good guy to foil the plan? Because I haven't been able to find anything where this being is concerned, where it ever demands worship, ever demands this devotion. One of the most neutral beings, I guess I could say. It's wisdom. It's a light. It is. That's what it said. Now, Chris, you can't go crazy overthinking. Excuse me, that doesn't happen. If you can't organize your thoughts properly, you might find yourself having to clean up the kitchen floor a little bit. But, just get some containers. That's all it takes. It's very easy. But I'm just bringing this out. So there you go. Didn't even get to it. I got some great material that we were going to look at, but I share it with this group because this group is mature and open-minded enough to even consider the possibility. And again, I can't find where Lucifer has ever said, "Come worship me." Again, why would a god want another god to worship it? Counterproductive. And if it was cast out of heaven, as it says, then I don't think the story that they're trying to say is going to be the end, because they're making the story of Satan. They don't use the word Lucifer in Revelation. No. So, because for me, it seems like Lucifer is one of the most elusive spirits that I've come across. And there may be good reason for it. It knows it's hated by this God. And if this God could ever find out where this kingdom is, this realm, this dimension, I think this God here would try to destroy it. Because this is what's happening here on this earth. We're being destroyed. And our belief systems aren't working. So anyway, there you go. Boots on ground. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. um, thank you, Hazy. Appreciate that. But just consider it. It's never talked about. And you know, when you hear the other side trying to control the narrative always, you have to ask yourself what's up. I mean, it's doesn't make sense. So I know that's where my life path is leading, because I got the story on this other side. And I get this other story in the middle side. This is, where I get into all the demons. And, listen, they're a partying group. There's no doubt about it. Uh, I mean, as I said before, that'd be a hell of a party. But on the seriousness of the other side, I speak from my soul on this, is that something we've been denied this knowledge. And again, if you had God call you an enemy and he vowed to destroy you, what are you going to do? What would you do? You just going to merely stand around and wait for your ass to get slaughtered? Particularly if you found fault in its operation? What would you do? I would build a place. I'd create a place that where this God could never get near it, never touch it. We don't think about that, do we? And remember, they scare you with the idea of this place of punishment. That wouldn't be, why would Lucifer oversee that? You read about the demons, it don't seem like that would be, these are a partying group. They ain't about to get down into this whole mess. No, no, no. So if you have some ideas on it and you think about it, let me know. It had never entered into my consciousness until this morning when I was awakened and asked, why aren't you using what you know, the knowledge? And I woke up and I'm repeating myself. I know it's because it doesn't interest me. Now that interests me. That's pointing me in a direction I have never even considered before. Maybe there's this one idea of perfection that has imperfection, but what if there is the other one? All righty. Mary Wins, much love to you, darling. We are bright and shining, and we talk and we expound on these thoughts because it's time for new thought. The rhetoric of a book that says that it's supposed to be 2,000 years old, which is a bunch of bullshit, has never produced anything positively. Maybe it's time for us to begin to think of other potential possibilities. Um, so, all right, Randy, what's up? Good to see you, Deborah. How are you? Paul, Joe, and Joyce, and Brian. Hello, Shirley. Um, all right, let me know in the comment section. Have yourselves a fabulous day. Thanks for hanging out. That's what I got to say. Seriously, though, much love to you all. And hey, this is where deep thinkers come together and we ponder and pontificate the possibility of what could be or what might be and might already was. Yeah, we just ponder it all. All right. Much love. Much love to you, Gaia. Say hi to Paul, Bonnie as well, Susie Q. Thank you. All the rest of you.